So there's three salaries. We're going to look at a gross salary, a disposable income, if you wish, that gets paid into your, and then a discretionary spend, if you wish. So here's two sets of numbers. Both are increasing, that's true. So you get a 14,500 Rand gross salary. We think it's very on very much the same basis, very similar basis. What people get out is about 10,141 that they get paid in the bank. So that's your disposable salary, and that gives people a pretty good idea as to what the average person gets in the bank. There's three big things that get withdrawn according to profile. That is, first of all, taxes, pensions, medical aid. There's a host of other things like tool allowances, but all those other host of 12 other aspects are pretty small things overall that you would have withdrawn from people before the bank goes and so on. And just on that, you can see over here, in every year, except in 2008, the gross salaries increased a lot quicker than people's disposable salaries. And we've tested this a little bit to see where this comes from. But that shows you that we've gone, in 2008, we were at about 74%. Was your disposable salary as a percentage of your gross salary, and that's declined to just under 70%, 69.9% last year. Medical insurance, taxes, UIF are just increasing in size. You can see here from the tax take, this is not per person, this is just the pure personal income tax take from SARS. You can see during the Great Recession that went down in 2008, 2009. That was also the year that we saw disposable salaries increase quicker than gross salaries. And the rest of the time, this is increasing typically over 10% a year. While gross salaries generally have increased faster than inflation, they have, okay? The fact is that the tax, your tax brackets have not increased faster than inflation. In fact, they've been much smaller than inflation. So when the minister gives people 5 billion Rand off, everybody's impressed and says, wow, 5 billion has been given back to taxpayers. The problem is 5 billion on 200 billion is a very small part. It's 2.5%. And if your inflation is roughly 5.5%, then you're already losing out by 3%. It hasn't taken in effect the inflation. But because people's salaries went up, say, with 7% or 7.5%, there's a 5% bracket creep, if I can call it that. And that bracket creep means people get into a higher and higher tax brackets. So now you negotiate as a union and you say, right, with the employer, and you all agree you're going to get inflation plus something. The fact of the matter is, at the other end, the taxman is taking more and more of his fair share, if I can put it that way. 1 in 10 South African adults are responsible for 97% of the personal income tax in South Africa. So that gives you an idea as to how thin the actual tax base is. Personal income tax is now by far the biggest category of tax collection. Company taxes during the recession have gone down and they have not recovered. VAT is still there, but this is much bigger than VAT. So that's the point that we need to make. So yes, as salaries go up, the state is relying ever more on the employees of this country or the individual taxpayers. The total salary deductions, you can just see, has gone from about 2.4 thousand Rand to about 4.4 thousand Rand in a period of 6 years. Now that's a massive increase, so you can see how quickly this is increasing. If you look at the tax deductions, they've increased with 84%. Leading that we could find is personal income taxes. That increased with 96%, your gross salary with 69%, your disposable salary with about 63%, and inflation with about 45%. So yes, you're still one above inflation, but the problem is that your spending pattern is busy changing, especially for workers, and we'll talk about that on the discretionary side. But if you just look, we base this on the number of payments that we get from Treasury, what the municipalities charge. We then look at households, what they have to pay, the consumer units as they're called there. Some of them are not maybe households, but small shops and the like, but that gives you an idea. The average person out there is paying, last year, is paying over 1,000 Rand in municipal rates in one form or another. So of that 10,000 Rand that people get, you can say virtually 10% goes to the municipality, which is another form of taxation if you actually think about it. But we think the average employee is paying back around 2,000 Rand in debt. Here's our contractual payments. We think the average household spending roughly about 100 Rand on security as well, which you could argue is another form of taxation because people feel unsafe. Not many countries have as many private security companies as we do. So we think that the contractual payments add up to about 600 Rand per month. That would take our disposable salary left to about 6,000 Rand. But we still think that this is not discretionary because there's other things that we don't have a very good take on. In South Africa, for example, we know that people also have to pay school fees over and above that. We just told you about petrol and things like that. That's not a discretionary spend for many, many employees. Petrol is a need to spend. You have to do that. So we looked at the average worker, where they would fall in, or the average worker falls in the top, the median falls in the second highest quintile from Stats SA. So we then went to look at what we could say was outside of food, outside of cleaning materials, outside of petrol, outside of actual rent, or paying back your house, all that type of stuff. We also took off medical aid as if people paid that whole medical aid on top. So that leaves the average person around about, of their disposable income, around about 24%. But we know that is of your disposable salary, and we've now got an idea as to what your disposable salary is. Then that would leave us with about 2,400 Rand that the average worker would have of the money left. Okay? That's what he can go and spend every month on things that he or she chooses. But if you look at it as a percentage of gross salaries, it's only about 16.6%. So it's maybe not a perfect way of doing it. There's no clean-cut way, because as I said already, there's a certain amount of stuff in here, even on the discretionary side that we've left here. You know, there are things that you could argue that people feel they need. But I think it's quite easy to say that less than a quarter of your disposable salary is discretionary, and very simply, even less than that, say 17% or less, is going to be, of your gross salary, is going to be discretionary salary. And that's the average guy. The median guy is going to have an even tougher time. The choice that you have, that you can make, is in essence very, very small. So the discretionary spend is only about 50% higher than the tax take. So we're getting to that. We're going to get to that situation maybe in future, where we may be in a situation where you actually pay more taxes, and already probably for some people it is that case, than we have left in discretionary spend. But we are certainly heading in that direction, and that's something else that we should be looking at and doing at a different level, because something has to give. You cannot keep on increasing the administrative prices, such as your municipal rates. And I don't want to just hate municipalities here. Your medical aid, your school fees, toll fees, your taxes, your UIF, you know, all those type of things are also going up higher than they now have to also start coming a lot closer on scrutiny and a lot more control on them. Because certainly I think it's pushing people to a situation where they feel it's no longer worthwhile they're working. And that's maybe the point that I want to make in general. Yes, you can go and negotiate with your employer. Yes, you have the responsibility to do that. But that's only part of the equation. The other part of the equation is all these other things that are taking things away from people. And, you know, we've been lucky. As I said, the garnishing orders or the civil debt judgments are coming down. Certainly we're lucky in telecom fees right now have been coming down in the last while. That's quite a good sign. There's some signs that some bank fees are coming a little bit more under control. But are our school fees coming under control? Are our university fees coming under control? Are our municipal rates coming under control? And I don't believe that is the case. I think the case is that these things have been increasing faster than the rate of inflation and faster than people's salaries. And that's what the problem is. Thank you very much.